Packers fans out here to stay. Cheeseheads green and gold all day. Jordan Love lead us to the bay. Every game we find a way. Green Bay hustle, grind it up. Hit the field, we don't bluff. Touchdown dances, feel the love. Jordan's got that MVP stuff. It's time for oh, let's go. Packers bringing that show. It's time for oh, you know. Green and gold gonna glow. Lambeau Field, our sacred ground. Feel the vibe, hear the sound. Packers fans so loud and proud. Jordan Love, he's wearing the crown. Lambeau Field, our sacred ground. Feel the vibe, hear the sound. Packers fans so loud and proud. Jordan Love, he's wearing the crown.
Hello, and welcome back to the Johanna Packers Edition podcast. We are Ope. I am Iowa Joe. As you can tell, Mike is not here. He is out taking his kids to swim lessons, well, which I guess being on a state that is 100% surrounded by water is kind of a good thing to make sure they know how to at least doggy paddle around. But
I just like that he has an excuse. Look, Mike has now been on my podcast, and I've now been on his podcast, and both times we were absent from our own show because Mike is a Michigan fan, and I'm an Ohio State fan, and everybody knows that putting the two of us in the same call together just wouldn't go well. So, Mike, when you listen back to this, love you, buddy.
And for those of you that are listening to this on audio only, that is the voice of JJ. Now, I say Lahey because I just love saying Lahey, but I'm
you got to watch some Trailer Park Boys. You can start saying frig off Lahey. You know, then that's the best way to get rid of me when I'm being too much. Yeah. No,
but
it's
see,
like Jim
I also
Lahey
love
from Trailer Park Boys. JJ Lahey.
Yeah, Lahey. Yeah, I get you. But I also like calling Jason Perrone because I just love I can only picture the most Italian guy in the world, Perrone. So, but this is JJ Lahey, Derailed Podcast, draft guy. Usually he's with his podcast partner Jake Shavink, which for some reason I can actually get for tonight. Normally it's like Shavassan or some shit like that, but I actually nailed it on the first try.
I don't think that pronouncing it is too hard. It's having to spell it. And since I have to type his name all the time when I'm trying to promote the show, I finally had to get good at it. But Jake has so many consonants and vowels, like all in a row in the order you wouldn't expect. Like saying it is the easy part.
He's got a typical Wisconsin name, and I don't think Jake is from Wisconsin.
Well, he lives in enemy territory among all the Bears fans, unfortunately.
Okay, so then, that Illinois thing kind of fits in there a little bit too. But anyway, this is a long way around to say we are doing our 2025/2026 end of the year awards. And kind of funny, Mike wasn't at our last year's awards either, so I think he just doesn't want to do award shows.
Hey, I only came on here because I love you so much. Because you asked me to come on, you're like, "Hey, it's the award shows," and I hate award shows, but I am kind of partial to the Packers. So when you said we were doing a Packers award show, I said, it's the least I can do. All right, show up for my buddy Joe. Do a Packers award show for the wet fart of a season that was 2025. And usually you would say like 2025 to 2026, but like, let's be honest, the Packers quit a few weeks before 2025 even ended. So it really wasn't the 25 to 26 season. It was just the 25 to almost the end of 25 season.
Pretty much. And as I normally tell people, we do an award show, but we're not like the Oscars and all that, where we're going to just call out the good. We're going to throw in some not so good in there too. So we don't hold, well, Mike holds back, but Mike is a very goody two-shoe type of guy. And I'm just the asshole of the group that I have no problems calling people out for shit. So yeah, there will be some of that. We may even be getting Jake on at some point. Who knows? He's mentioned maybe wanting to jump in. So sit back, buckle up, get ready for whatever kind of shit we're going to throw against the wall.
Hey, you sent me like the itinerary of which awards need to be handed out, and I was looking at a couple of them, and they seemed so obvious that it made me question, like, hey, do we have to each give our own pick for some of these, like give our own player for some of them? Because like there's one on here, I'm staring at it, it's the second to last one on the list, and I'm like, come on, man, there's only one person you could put in there. Like if you took that one first and I had to come up with a second, like I'm just gonna lose.
And see, I've got two in mind actually for it. Because
I do have a backup, but it's just he's like so far behind the first one, you know?
But let's go ahead and do that one first. We'll start out with a little bit of doom and gloom so we can see what we're going to end up with. And that is the disappearing act, the player who vanished too often for the Green Bay Packers. I will let you go first so you can get your main one out of the way, and we'll see if we match up out of it.
Well, I mean, this guy is paid to be there every down. He's got the big boy money. And if we hadn't made this humongous, colossal trade this season, he should have been the face of the defense. And I think a lot of us are asking, where the heck was Rashawn Gary this year? Just disappointing effort all year. I'm just waiting. And, any day now, one of these beat writers is going to come out and tell us that Rashawn Gary secretly was dealing with a gnarly hangnail on his big toe that, would just made this season unbearable. And he was really secretly a hero for playing through it. But yeah, I mean, Rashawn Gary, just way too often pulling up early, jogging, standing still, kind of doing a late stage Kenny Clark impression. And obviously, especially once Micah went down, the defense was really hurt by it. But even before that, like Micah's drawing double and triple teams, and like, can't Rashawn get home on the other side? No, he's just gonna get chipped by a tight end. Come on, man.
For sure. And obviously that one's the big pick. I'm assuming if you would ask 10 Packer fans, 9 out of 10 of them are going to say Rashawn, and the 10th guy is probably going to be Kwano, and that's just because Rashawn is a Michigan boy, so Kwano's going to stick up for the Michigan guy. But
Michigan fans being biased?
Hey, I can't say nothing. I'm Hawkeye, and I'll always be a Hawkeye. I never even played for the Hawkeyes, and I consider myself a Hawkeye because my knee surgery was done by the same guy that worked on the Hawkeye players. So, but yeah, Rashawn.
Hey, you did about as much for Iowa's offense as most of their players have in the last 10 years.
Pretty much, outside of a couple of guys, yeah, pretty much. But yeah, Rashawn, and what really sucks about the Rashawn one is for like the first 3 weeks, it looked like we were going to have a tremendous 1-2 punch with him and Micah. And then that
or with Micah and Van Ness before Van Ness got hurt and missed, the entire season, basically.
Right. But when you look at Rashawn's stats, his 7.5 sacks pretty much all came within the majority of them came within the first couple weeks of the season. And then I know the popular stat is after week 8, he just was gone.
I will say he was weirdly a pressure monster. He had 60 pressures on just 446 pass rush attempts, way above the threshold of what you're looking at for, which is you want at least 10%, which of course would have been 44, 45. So he's at 60. So just a incredible pressure rate, but it didn't pass the eye test. You're watching him play, and you can see plays that are there to be made, and he just stops fighting halfway through the play. And when the whole fan base starts noticing it game after game after game, that's when the frustration builds. And so even though he had this extraordinary pressure season that, didn't even really taper off once Micah got hurt, like he still had the same number of pressures per game after that. But I mean, he got himself, basically benched against Chicago in the second game. And, like everybody just is watching as he pulls up early, jogs when there's a tackle to be made, takes a banana angle. And it's just not what you're expecting from former first round pick, highly drafted first round pick, who is supposed to have been the face of your defense this year, and very well compensated. 2 years removed now from the ACL, or 3 years. Is it 2 or 3? 2 years removed from the ACL.
Yeah, it'll be 3 this coming season.
Yeah, and I think everybody who has watched him just kind of acknowledges that, like, the explosiveness and the speed and the stamina just aren't there anymore post ACL injury. And, it doesn't take a lot of like confirming your priors when you're listening to Micah talk about needing more from his teammates, to like listen to them with Rashawn Gary in mind and think like, some of these things that Micah is saying are like very specific to, there's only a couple of guys it could have been. And of those guys it could have been, Rashawn is the only guy who had lofty expectations on him. Micah's talking about, hey, I want my teammates to try and beat me to the quarterback. Well, there's not a lot of guys on the defense who are rushing the passer consistently. Okay, maybe he's calling out Devontae Wyatt. Yeah, maybe. Or maybe it's Rashawn who's lined up on the other side, and like Micah's out there fighting through every single play. That when he's watching the tape back, he's noticing what Rashawn's doing on the other side, and like, man, I'm working 3 times as hard as you on this snap, and I created an opportunity. I flushed the quarterback right into your lap, and you pulled up early, and or the running back's coming right at you, and then he just bounces outside, and you're like, oh well, play's over.
I thought the one that really drove the nail home was, because obviously, like you said, when you see Micah outrun Rashawn, well, Micah's always going to outrun Rashawn because Rashawn was never known for his speed. But the one that really drove the nail home was in the wild card game, when you see the same exact thing where Kobe Wooden is out hustling Rashawn Gary.
Yep.
And Kobe Wooden should not be out.
No offense to Colby, but he and I have similar physiques.
If you say so. I'm not going to touch that. We're going to move on. But so I had another one in mind, but this one just popped in, and I'm going to mention it just because the contract he got, because you mentioned that with Rashawn. Brian Gutekunst brought in 2 guys in the offseason as touted as their big time free agents, gave them big time money. Or this one player got big time money out of it, and yeah, he was hurt for a few games, but outside of that, really showed nothing. Maybe a little bit more towards the end of the season, but that is Aaron Banks. The left guard. He just, for this big road grader type guard that they paid, what was it, $77 million for
4 years, $77 million, yeah.
And to be that guy, they moved their all-pro Elton Jenkins from the left guard position just because they brought him in, and he did nothing. I mean, obviously the offensive line as a whole was just weak this year. Injuries really hurt. Elton looked rough at center, which sucked because, he was a center when he was drafted. They just had moved him all around, and he was supposed to be this guy that you could move around and not miss a beat, but he struggled. Obviously, the moving around of Jordan Morgan did not help him at all. Finally, Belton settled in as that right guard and played okay-ish for the most part, and Kennard was never used more than a 6th offensive line and like 3rd tight end at the most extreme moments, which I still think he deserves to be re-signed based on his catch and run alone. But yeah, Banks, I gotta say, is probably my disappearing act, just because you're handed this big bag of money, and and the thing is you come from a prestigious college for offensive linemen. I honestly don't know much about him while he was with San Francisco, But if these guys are thinking that you're this second coming, that they're moving their all-pro left guard to center, just and sign you to this big money contract, and then you put up the year that you did, yeah, there's something not right there.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan of this. I wasn't a fan of the signing, and even less of a fan of the season he turned in. But hey, he's got plenty of fans on social media who will ardently defend him. I don't think that having him on the team is the worst thing. I just don't understand paying him like a bona fide starter, like a premier left guard when he's below average. And
especially when you could have gave a smaller contract to Runyon and probably got the same, if not maybe a little better production out of him.
I think you could have. I mean, Josh Myers.
Yeah,
retaining Josh Myers over Aaron Banks. There's not a lot of people who would have said in the moment, "Hey, let's bring back Josh Myers." But obviously, hindsight being 2020, the majority of the fan base would have been happy to bring back Josh Myers for this year. In hindsight, now, analyzing what this offensive line turned into, and there's certainly an argument to be made that you are much better served giving a lot less money to Josh Myers, keeping Elton Jenkins at left guard, and getting through the season that way, rather than, now we're pretty much in cap hell, and all the money that we're given to Aaron Banks, like if we cut him now, then it's 29 or 31 or something, $29 million for one season from the guy. So of course they're not going to do that. They're going to bring him back for a second year. And
however, if you do a post June 1st, you save a shit ton more money. I looked at that on Over the Cap, and if you designate him as a post June 1st cut, it saves a bunch of your
in the short term. Yeah, you still have to pay that out next year.
Yeah, but there's less dead money, and there's a lot more cap savings out of it.
Yeah, doing it as a post June 1 allows you to split it across 2 years instead of just paying it all just the 1 year. So it's the same. It's the same amount of money, but it's across 2 years.
Right. But yeah, he's definitely the guy that I would have to say the disappearing act award. So let's go ahead and move on to, let's get a little bit more cheerful on this. Let's do the Lambeau Standard Award, the most consistently excellent Packer of the 2025 season. I'll let you go first since you're the guest.
Thanks. That's a good one. And there were a couple names that I was considering.
And I want to put a emphasis on this. We will have an actual MVP. So if anybody's listening, no, this isn't our MVP award. We'll do that at the later. But this is just the guy that has been the most consistently excellent throughout the season.
I'm going to go with kind of the easy, obvious one of Micah Parsons, because he really had it turned up to a 10 every snap of every game. Like the dude just he never took, I mean, even going back to like week 1. All right. And a lot of us thought that he would kind of be slow rolled into this one, right? He had missed training camp, even with Dallas the entire summer. There was questions of like, how in football shape is he actually going to be? And, he doesn't know our defense at all. Like, he's had like 5 minutes to get caught up to speed. And then he comes in and like plays the majority of week 1. And then, by week 2, he's out there for basically every meaningful snap. And you just look at just the consistent down to down effort. And there's a couple different players, particularly on offense, that I think were certainly deserving of being talked about in this conversation. And so if you don't mention them, I think I'll bring them up at the end just to make sure that they.
Yeah, we can give a couple of honorable mentions, but Micah's
so you get the respect that they do deserve. But for me, Micah was just so consistently what he needed to be. When he was on the field, you felt like you always had a real chance.
And let's face it, once he went down, that looked like pretty much the end of the season for the Packers.
Yeah.
So that one's a good one. Don't be surprised if he shows up at a later point in the award show. I'm going to come out from left field for this one. I've been thinking about this for a while. there's names, a couple of honorable mentions. I could throw Javon Bullard out there because this was a really good season for him. Last year it looked like he was kind of lost and everything, and this year it looks like he really started putting together. I originally was thinking Romeo Dobbs because, he has been consistent. I said this last week on our episode that if there was a way that they could financially make it work to keep Dobbs in Green Bay, and if he wanted to stay in Green Bay, I would do it in a heartbeat because I would feel more comfortable with Dobbs and Golden than I do Golden and Watson, because really their play styles are very similar with Watson and Golden, whereas Dobbs adds that little bit of extra out there. But those can be a couple of honorable mentions. This one I'm going to throw out there because the key word here is consistently. And this player has consistently been an excellent player, especially in a position that we've had some issues with before in the past, on the side of a ball that we have had issues for many, 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 many years. And that's Daniel Whelan, the Irish cannon.
He's on my short list.
This guy has been amazing. Very rarely do you see him, screw up. I mean, that's the easy way to put it. He's had to deal with Orsic. He's had to deal with McManus. And he's consistently, not only is his kicking great, but his, wrangling some of these long snaps that he's had to wrangle to put in a position to even give McManus or even Haverisk a shot at making the field goal, even extra points. This guy has been consistent, and I think we finally just need to give him some recognition for that because, for special teams being as weak as they all have been for, like I said, many, many, many years, he's been like the lone bright spot the last couple.
Yeah, certainly considered Daniel Whelan, and absolutely a Pro Bowl snub or All-Pro snub. The fact that he didn't make the All-Pro, he was clearly head and shoulders the best punter in the NFL. Jake Shavink pointed out to me a couple weeks ago that if you look at EPA, Daniel Whelan was far and away the most valuable punter in the NFL. And the fact that he didn't get the All-Pro recognition is crazy. But
I was just looking here because I got Pro Football Reference up just so I could look at some things. And his yards per punt was 51.7, and his long was 72. And that's just, when you think about all the years that we've had these makeshift punters, and thinking about some of, with a couple of them, we were lucky they were even getting like 40 yards a punt, 50 yards a punt. And you've got this guy here that is consistently, kicking them inside the 20, and not always a touchback, not always a shank. Very rarely do you see it mess up. Give him the OP. I forgot to mention that we call our awards the OPEES.
The OPEES, I love it. I love it.
I forgot to mention that at the start. See, this is why I let Mike run the show, and I just throw in comments once in a while because he's usually good about remembering this shit. But these are the OPEES. So, yes. Did you have any honorable mentions that you wanted to throw out there real quick?
Yeah, I thought that Jordan Love and Josh Jacobs both certainly deserve to be out here.
Right.
I think Zach Tom should be in conversation for honorable mention. Jordan to me was pretty consistently excellent, just not quite to the same degree that Micah was, where there were, I felt like a few more plays during the season where you'd look at Jordan Love and say, hey, there was some more meat on the bone there that I would have liked you to go out and be there and get. And with Micah, you just never really felt that way, frankly.
Yeah. And, again, it goes without saying that when they lost Micah, that was kind of the final nail in the coffin for things. So we'll go ahead and move on to I love this one because this is my favorite Lombardi quote, and I use it all the time. What the hell is going on out there award. Basically, this is our least valuable player award. And on the defensive side of the ball, there's so many of them, but there are a few that you probably mentioned on the offensive side. And there's probably also a couple mentioned on anywhere else. So go ahead and give us your least valuable or what the hell's going on out here award.
Well, this is the problem is how you named it. Because if you just only said least valuable, I would go with a different name. But since you're calling it the what the hell is going on out there award, only one name fits. It's Keyshawn Nixon.
Ooh, I mean, I got another one in mind that fits it perfectly too.
The dude was just a hilarious clown show all year, and like he had his 5 pass breakup game that drew all of his supporters out of the woodwork to come out and lecture everybody for being underwhelmed with the dog water performance the week before, and just like the absolute comedy at times from him, where you're just watching him play and you're like, how in the world are you allowed to go out there and play the next snap after what you just did there? Like, it's crazy
because they had no one else to play
sometimes. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you build a roster that only has 3 cornerbacks on it, you kind of just got to keep playing those 3 cornerbacks all year, especially when one of them is hurt 2/3 of the year. Oh, I guess we're just only playing 2 cornerbacks. We're not even going to work anybody out. We have 2 cornerbacks. That's just our defense. It's 2 cornerbacks. What are we going to do if we play, a really pass-heavy team? Lose.
Yeah.
Hope Micah
gets 7.5 sacks. But yeah, I agree.
Like, very clearly, the plan on defense was just, hey, let's just pressure the quarterback so much, or let them run all day, and nobody's going to try and throw on us. They'll just assume that we can stop the pass, and maybe we can coast our way to hoisting a Lombardi trophy without anybody trying to pass on us.
And see, I've never had an issue with Keyshawn per se. I never thought he was that great of a corner. He definitely surprised us all with his return ability, but the minute he said he wanted to be the number 1 corner on the team is the minute I was like, nope, I'm out. Because there were too many times that before he became that quote-unquote number 1 CB on the team that he just seemed lost out there. And you saw it even more now when they relied on him more. And yes, if you look at his stats, they are okay. You got 17 pass defenses, 72 tackles, and he's got the 1 game-sealing interception. But if you actually look at his body of work, it is not number 1 CB. And that was the whole thing Mike and I railed on the whole offseason, that they didn't draft anybody except for the 7th round kid out of Tulane. And Micah Robinson, and it wasn't even the one that Brian Maffey wanted. It was the other one.
He was so ticked when that was the corner that they took out of Tulane.
But yeah, so mine, I think I can pretty well put him in here. And this is kind of a pattern for the last 2 awards. This one is definitely Brandon McManus, McAnus, if you want to call him that, or Suckanus, or whatever you want to call him. He is another one.
Know off the top of your head how many wins he cost us this year?
At least 4.
Yeah, it was 5 because of the Dallas tie. So he cost us a win in that one. So he got us eliminated, cost us 3 outright wins where we lost otherwise, and cost us the win against Dallas.
Yeah. And this was another one. Mike and I were completely against it from the beginning. When everybody kept talking about, well, we got to bring McManus in. No, I don't want him. For one, he's nothing more than what Mason Crosby gave us, which was like an 80% kicker. For 2, you have all the off the field stuff that you have no idea. I know they dropped the charges or whatever, but you don't know if that actually means he did it. That just means they didn't have enough to go forward with. And, that's just what he got caught on. We don't know what else he's done out there that he didn't get in trouble for. And I knew that he was a headache when he was in Denver. That's the whole reason he wasn't in Denver anymore. I think he went up to Detroit and outstayed his welcome in Detroit. And then, of course, all the stuff that happened when he in this short time down in Jacksonville. So this one I never understood. Then we got into like you said, the Dallas game where that whole shit went down. Then it got to the point where LaFleur wouldn't even try kicking it in obvious kicking situations because he didn't know if he could trust him. Then the whole injury and the Haveris shit. And, well, we're not going to play Haveris. We're just going to keep throwing our injured guy out there who's going to continue to miss kicks. And that this lives up to the name of the award. What the hell is going on out there? Because what really was going on out there that he kept, running that player out there. That's where I say that Bisaccia has LaFleur's ear too tightly. And I think that's why we have a Keyshawn. I think that's why we have a Nate Hobbs. That's why we have a Brandon McManus. And it just, that's all I can say about it.
Well, it doesn't help that the Packers do not care about special teams at all. They don't care.
Which is weird because I kind of got in this with Mafi the other day too when Demoski called out Justice Mosqueda, or Moscato if you want to call him that, about the article he wrote about the Packers being cheap on their special teams. And Mafia, we weren't arguing, but we just had this small back and forth on it that, for one, I don't see how they can be cheap when they're making it's not like they're having to use salary cap on coaches, and they make truckloads of money in Green Bay. So it's not that they don't have the money for it. I just think it's a LaFleur thing that he wants his buddies. And the other reason I say that I don't agree with it is because you can't tell me Bisaccia came to Green Bay on the cheap.
Well, Bisaccia was immediately made the highest paid special teams coordinator in the league. But when you look at roster construction, they dedicate next to no assets to special teams.
Except for who Bisaccia wanted, because that's why we had Dallin Levitt and why we have Zane Anderson and guys like that on the team.
Sure. But we have had in the last couple of years, like routinely the most valuable special teamers on the roster in a given year are not brought back the next year. They get let go to Minnesota and be outstanding special teams there, or what have you. And how many times have we had a guy who was doing a decent job at returns, and then, hey, let's trade him away, let's move him to a different position, let's cut him outright. They're like, returner is just it has no value to the Packers at all. They do not care about having a returner, even when your returner is turning the ball over. Like that's been a thing the last couple of years, and they don't really make moves there.
Or when you have to put your star running back out there in the playoff game to return kicks.
I mean, there's no plan, there's no strategy, there's no plan, there's no answers. They're still grasping at straws in the return game in the playoffs. Yeah, and I mean, if you were to have the ear of Matt LaFleur for a minute and ask him, like, hey, would you, if I could tell you a way that you could gain a free 10 yards every single drive, would you be interested in that? And he'd say, of course. And he'd say, well, your offense is routinely starting their drive 10 yards further back than where they need to be because you can't return. There's time to run the ball out, and you're just not. And you're getting the ball at the 5 or the 10. And like the teams you're playing against aren't doing that. They're getting the ball at the 20, the 30, sometimes even better.
And that just, and to speak on that, it shows that teams are knowing that the Packers aren't going to do this, so they don't kick it where where you would want them to kick it. So, but yes, that's my guy. I mean, there's a couple others that you could throw out there. I was thinking, and I hate to, just because I think it's more they don't know how to use him, and he's got ballerina legs, and Musgraves, but McManus, like you said when I first mentioned it, has cost us too many games. And it's not even just this year. I mean, there were a couple last year that it's like...
And I don't blame McManus for that. I blame the coaches for understanding what is going on in front of them and not caring enough to make any kind of changes. And there was no effort to go out there and find a different kicker after they decided, hey, we've decided that Haversick is unacceptable to go out there and be our starting kicker for some reason. So he can't do it. So we're just not even going to try and go work out other kickers or anything. It's McManus or bust.
Or they had one on roster. And I'm not saying that Haversick was our savior for anything. It's just you had one on roster when McManus was dealing with his injury that it would have saved some headache there. But JJ's
it reminded me of in 2022 when Aaron Rodgers has a broken finger in his hand and can't throw the football, and they refuse to, bench him and let him get healthy. They refuse to put him on IR, whatever, because
I think that's part of Rodgers too. I think that was the whole fight with Rodgers was I don't know. That's a whole nother podcast episode that we could do on shit, but since you're putting a time limit on us, JJ, we gotta bust through a couple more of these.
Sure.
So let's go ahead and do the Run It Back Award. This is the guy that you're looking forward to the most in the 2026 season that either performed well during this season, so you're looking how he takes next step forward, may not have performed up to esteem, but showed enough that you're looking forward to it, or however you want to take it, but it's the Run It Back Opie of 2025.
Can you do this one first, and then let me rapid fire 3 names that I want to see run it back next year?
Oh, mine's the easiest one of all. I will say this because I called my shot before the draft.
Okay.
And selected this guy in the first round in my mock draft 3 days before the first round of the NFL draft. Matthew Golden. Mm-hmm. Especially with kind of his breakout game in the wild card with 84 yards and getting his first touchdown on a play that probably on most guys would have probably been dropped 2 yards short of a first down. He fought. They've not used him a ton. So yeah, Matthew Golden is definitely the guy that I look forward to in 2026.
All right, so he was one of my 3. So the other 2 would be that I really thought that year 3 was going to be the breakout year for Lucas Van Ness. And when he was on the field, that was absolutely on track, both before and after the injury. And it sucks that he missed so much time to injury this year. So we were really robbed of what I think was clearly going to be his breakout season. So I'm hoping that he hits the ground running in year 4 and gives us what he really would have given us this year had he been able to stay healthy. And it's just unfortunate that he was hurt so much this year. So Lucas Van Ness, and then also, there's a couple guys who I think we're expecting to not be back this year. I think that more than likely Jordan Morgan is going to be the left tackle, that Rashid is not going to be left tackle anymore. And same with moving on from Rashawn probably is going to happen. And so then you'd have, a full helping of Lucas Van Ness out there. So, but Jordan Morgan at left tackle, finally playing the position he actually is supposed to play. It's the only position that I actually want him playing. I don't want him at right tackle. I don't want him at guard. He's not a guard. I don't think he can play guard. Never thought he could play guard. So, to me, Jordan Morgan is purely only a left tackle. I don't want to see him anywhere else. So, if he is our starting left tackle next year, I'm excited to actually see our first round pick actually get some playing time, and hopefully look good.
If nothing else, to kind of support Goody in his decision to take Jordan Morgan over a couple other players that he probably could have took at that spot in that draft.
Yeah, there were not a lot of people who agreed with that draft pick at the time. And I mean, there were a couple, but the vast majority, had Cooper DeJean circled, or Edgerrin Cooper, or who was the other defensive back who went early in the second round? It was Cooper DeJean, and was it Kool-Aid? People really wanted Kool-Aid McKinstry.
People wanted Kool-Aid, and then people wanted. No, Terrian went before that pick.
Yeah, Terrian was off the board, and so was the cornerback from Toledo, Quentin something Q.
Yeah, Mitchell.
Quentin Mitchell. Yeah, Quinyon Mitchell. Quinyon Mitchell? I think that was his name. Yeah.
Quinyon. Yeah, Quinyon.
Yeah, Quinyon and Terrian were both off the board before we got in the clock.
Was it the one that ended up in Baltimore? Wiggins?
Yeah, people like Nate Wiggins as well. I was a little lower on Wiggins. I really didn't like Rakestraw, who the Lions ended up taking. I was nervous that they might go for him, but I think everybody wanted Cooper DeJean, or everybody wanted Edgerrin Cooper in the first round. I think either one of those would have been home run first round picks, and then you could, obviously you could have gotten the second one of those two guys in the second round, and doubled up on them. So yeah. to actually get some return on the Jordan Morgan investment would be pretty nice, even though he's not really a scheme fit. But the Packers have some soul searching to do on offense anyway, so we'll see what their offensive identity is in 2026 anyways.
And this offensive line is going to have a lot of changeover. There's not going to be a lot of returning faces on that. If I had to throw an honorable mention out there, it'd probably be Baron Sorrell. I think he started really putting together things towards the end of the season, and hell was out efforting, if that's a word, Rashawn Gary for a while. So I look forward to that one too. And plus, he's got the feel-good story from the draft anyway. Let's do the Ice in the Vein Awards. This is the best clutch performance. I'll let you pick this one because I got to look something up real quick.
It's pretty tough. Frankly, like Ice in Their Veins is kind of the opposite of what the identity of the 2025 Packers was, which is like, hey, we're going to crumble in the biggest moments. So, that makes it tough. Like, you could consider Daniel Whelan. You could consider Josh Jacobs or Romeo Doubs or Micah Parsons. I think I'm probably going to give this one to Tucker Kraft, just bailing us out a lot early. And
plus continuing to have be number one in Yak out of all tight ends, and he missed half the season.
Yeah. And there were some guys early on in the season who I think at different points in the season you might have handed this award out to, say, Dontavian Wicks, who did not finish the season very well, or maybe Evan Williams or Edgerrin Cooper. Certainly were deserving at times earlier in the season. I think Xavier McKinney should certainly be included in this conversation as well. Jordan was fantastic. Josh Jacobs was fantastic. They certainly deserve some recognition there.
My guy, and it's basically more one specific game than anything, but just because of him having to step up after Josh Jacobs got injured, and that's Emmanuel Wilson. I think Wilson's performance in the Minnesota game, 107 yards, 2 touchdowns, and then, like I said, the rest of the season, he pretty well stepped in for Josh whenever he needed to. So, yeah, that's coming off this guy being an undrafted free agent coming out from a small school. I think he was in Denver first before ending up with Green Bay in his rookie season, and just coming out of nowhere and then biding his time, and this year being our number 2 running back and really being that guy that they could lean on when Josh couldn't play or was dealing with whatever. I got to give it to Emmanuel Wilson just because of that.
Pretty good.
I don't think I have an honorable mention that I can think of off the top of my head. So since we've only got a couple of minutes because JJ's got to go spend time with his family, and obviously Jake didn't show up, so I got to smack him around a few times the next time I talk to him. We're going to go ahead and throw out there our MVP of the Green Bay Packers 2025 season. And this, obviously this is like the NFL MVP. This is the guy that is top for the Green Bay Packers. So we probably could come up with the same one, but
Let
I'll
me
let
ask
you
you,
go.
how many guys did you consider? Because I considered 2.
I've got 2 off the top of my head. I maybe, because I'm good at justifying things, that I probably could sneak a 3rd or 4th one in there if I had to, just for justification. But I've definitely got just 2, and we probably got the same 2 in mind.
Yeah, I had one on offense and one on defense, and then there's a second guy on defense that you could make maybe a compelling argument for, and that guy would be Devontae Wyatt.
Okay,
Because
that's not the one I
even
was thinking of.
when Micah was on the field and Devontae wasn't, the defense was still awful, and that is the thing. And I considered Jordan Love. He was the engine that was making the offense go. He had an incredible season. If the rest of the team hadn't been so bad, I'm mostly like pointing fingers at the defense, pointing fingers at the offensive line, the vanishing acts that the wide receivers would pull, or even just it had Brandon McManus made all of his kicks, and we had those 5 extra wins that we should have had, Jordan would have absolutely been in MVP consideration. He would have been in talks for MVP.
And had Austin Booker not concussed him on a dirty ass hit, he'd probably had those numbers too.
Potentially. Yeah, potentially. I think the offense still looking so good when Malik Willis is out there hurts Jordan Love's case a little bit. But the biggest reason that, in my mind, you have to give it to Micah Parsons is because the entire plan on defense was Micah Parsons is going to terrorize everybody, and we're just going to pray that he doesn't miss any time, because if he misses any time, we're screwed. And they didn't put together a secondary. They didn't put together a defensive tackle room. And, the rest of the defensive end room couldn't really do anything on the opposite side of Micah. He was basically a one-man defense. It was him and McKinney and Williams and the 2 linebackers. That was it. That was the entire defense. So when the entire defense is built on you and the season ends and you don't get any more wins once you remove that player, like de facto, he has to be the most valuable player. The season's over because he's gone. I mean, had we still had a healthy functioning defense and Malik Willis at quarterback, there's a lot of people who have still picked the Packers to win a playoff game. I did not pick them to beat the Bears because I thought, hey, this defense is not good, and I don't think that this offense is good enough to carry this defense.
The only thing I got to say is I'm going to use my favorite term here, and I hope, because when I use this this saying, that it doesn't offend anybody, even though I am an asshole and I don't care if, for the most part, if it offends anybody. But I love the old saying, if my aunt had nuts, she'd be my uncle.
Sure.
So if you throw the ifs out there, because if Jordan Love's line gave him the time he needed to do the shit that he needed to do, we'd be looking at Jordan in a completely different light, because he did aces. And obviously my MVP is going to go to Jordan, just because he did the best he could with what he was dealing with. And it got so bad that I referenced this earlier with the Kennard catch in the wild card game. He did that because he had to. He had no time to do anything else. And I think he was just trying to throw it away, but Kennard made this amazing catch and run afterwards, even though he did fumble. But, big guys don't often get to catch and run with the football very often. So that's, not second nature for him. But, had he been behind the line that he had, even just last year or the year before, I think things would have been a lot different, even without Micah, even without Kraft, because we still had the talent at the wide receiver and the running back groups that I think this offense could have carried. That's not taking anything away from Micah. That's not taking anything away from Devontae.
Yeah.
That's just to say that Those guys are the guys that that helped when Jordan didn't have what he could on offense. But if I had to justify it, the two other guys would have been the two linebackers, Quay and Edrin, just because even when Micah was on the field, they were the guys that were basically the only other pass rush we had when Micah was getting double, tripled, and choked and kneecapped and everything else. Those guys were really the only rush that they had, and they were solid in coverage for the most part. Yeah, Quay still makes his mental mistakes. Yeah, Edge still makes his mental mistakes, but they're not as prevalent as they were before. So, if I had to justify it and couldn't pick Micah or Jordan, then I would have to go with one of the linebackers. So that is going to be it for the 2025/2026 OPE Awards, the OPE year-end Packer Awards. JJ, I appreciate you joining us, even though, like I said, we didn't get Jake on here, so you're going to have to slap him when you next see him. And I'll do the same for Mike, because I think Mike's ducking you. He does that to me once in a while too when it comes to things like that. But where can they find you, and can they get a hold of you or see what you're up to?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, if you guys want to check out the Derailed Podcast, that's going to be derailedfootball.com. Go there, and you can check out the show there, and you can follow me on X at JJ Lahey, Lahey. Thanks for having me, Joe.
Yeah, so you can find us at Ohana Packers on Twitter. You can find us Ohana Packers Edition everywhere else. We are doing our giveaway still over on Facebook, so please make sure you go over to Facebook, find the Ohana Packers Edition page, follow us over there. Once we hit 100 followers, we will be doing our bundle giveaway. I will try to post that video up again so everybody knows what we are giving away in that. It's a bunch of goodies between me and Mike. JJ, of course, hasn't went over and followed us yet, so we're going to have to do some discussions on that one. But go over, do that. Follow us over there. The only reason we want to start gaining followers over there is so we can start streaming over there, and you got to have a minimum of 100 viewers or 100 followers to be able to stream over there. That's the finale of our 2025 Green Bay Packers season. We will be having JJ on eventually again in the future, because we will be starting our draft discussions. Mike and I are going to take a break for a couple of weeks. That way we can retool, get people in, and we will start doing our position-by-position breakdowns leading up to the 2026 NFL Draft in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So be sure to be on the lookout for that. Drop your comments. Somebody requested something from us on Instagram the other day. I haven't forgot about it. It's just going to take, with what you requested, it's going to take some work from me and Mike to put it all together. So be on the lookout for that one too. Go over, find our merch shop, buy some merch, support us. This stuff's not cheap. Well, it is kind of cheap, but I don't want to have to pay for it all. So go over, support us, buy some merch. And if you got any questions, comments, reach out. But as Mike would say, go Pack, go.
Packers fans out here to stay. Cheeseheads green and gold all day. Jordan Love lead us to the bay. Every game we find a way. Green Bay hustle, grind it up. Hit the field, we don't bluff. Touchdown dances, feel the love. Jordan's got that MVP stuff. It's time for let's go. Packers bringing that show. It's time for green and gold gonna glow. Lambeau Field, our sacred ground. Feel the vibe, hear the sound. Packers fans so loud and proud. Jordan Love, he's wearing the crown. Lambeau Field, our sacred ground. Feel the vibe, hear the sound. Packers fans so loud and proud. Jordan Love, he's wearing the crown.